episode 19 of the Good Day Battlers podcast, where we talk about all things happening in the Oceania scene. I'm your co-host, Debbie Pebble, with our favourite Stephen, PvP Steve.
Hi, what is going on, all of my Godzillas and people that are not Godzillas?
I identify as not Godzilla, but thank you. And we're kicking off talking about all things local, Steve.
Local, but Deborah, don't we usually talk about like regionals and stuff? Aren't they like bigger deals than locals?
Well, it's the new thing on the block, because we have never had locals in Oceania until March. So today of recording, we're halfway through March, so we're kicking it off. We finally have locals, the last place in the world in the international scene, I suppose, to actually get locals. Africa and all the other Asian countries that don't get locals, but yeah, we're locals. Woo! Woo!
Let's
Clap.
go.
Insert clap music here.
So you've got the sound effect, don't you? There's the clap button, or is that on Discord? Oh, that's on Discord.
I believe that's Discord, and we don't have
Dang.
Yakovovich on today.
Ah, true. We don't have a need to not just get to use the proper podcast recording software because someone doesn't have the technological capabilities. Alas, but yes, no.
we're
Locals are here.
we're really starting off strong today.
Well, it's like, we do have a quota for those that aren't aware because, Yakko, he's been on more episodes than anyone. And so we sort of just need to mention him at least once in every podcast. So figured we'd get him out of the way early on this one so we can just sort of get on with our work and get on with the rest of the episode.
We should just really add the soundbite, then we can add another eepisode onto his list.
That's true. Watch out for episode 20 because I bet Yakko is going to have some wild opinions. Stay tuned. But regardless, yes, it is locals time. We finally got there. We've watched North America do it all season. We've watched Europe had it. I think, well, North America actually got it at the end of last season. But then Correct. Europe jumped on this season. Latin America jumped on a little bit earlier, a couple months back. And now we have finally joined onto the train. And luckily, shout out TPCI / Play Pokemon / everyone involved for recognizing that because we didn't have locals for so long, we did need the championship point sort of bar to qualify for Worlds to come down from 300 to 250. So all of a sudden, getting to Worlds is very achievable for those who sort of pick up some championship points from a regional. Because, I mean, I guess like, I feel like a lot of people are sort of in the know as to how it all works as far as the point system is concerned, but we can probably sort of touch on, because I don't know if we've actually said the numbers before, so I'm just going to literally read them off the table for good measure. But Please. There's two different things. There's the Pokemon Go challenges and there's Pokemon Go cups. And a store can only host a cup once every 3 months. They can host a challenge every month. And so the cups are more special, so they award more points. So the challenges award 15 points to the winner, 12 points to second place, and 10 points to third and fourth. There are additional point give-outy bits if you have more than 21 people. But in the Oceanic region, we have not gotten close to that yet. So that's not something that I think we're going to be worried about in the immediate future.
I think that's a Perth regional.
Yeah, that's actually really true. So, we can either do Perth. Oh, actually, no. So actually, if there is a challenge hosted at the Perth regionals, then maybe we actually might get that. Although that might still be a tall order. We'll see. What's more likely, I would suggest, is getting that many people for a cup if it's hosted that weekend or surrounds. Because a cup gives 50 points to first place, 40 points to second, 32 points to third and fourth, which is just an absolutely wacky number. Like, where did they pick 32 from? I don't know, but it's out there at the very least. And then, once you have 21 players, you start getting more points. So you start giving out 25 points to fifth place through eighth place, and it starts becoming more and more people picking up some points, which is especially nice when it is on a regional weekend. But with all of that said, you can only get championship points from your best 6 challenges and your best 6 cups. So if you sort of rack up, you win 6 challenges, you get 6 times 15, which is 90 points. That's as many points as you can get from challenges, and you'll have to get the rest from either cups or from regionals, which again, it
Mhm.
is possible to qualify entirely from cups and challenges, which is going to be very important for one country in particular, but maybe we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves.
Is that us?
I was actually referring to New Zealand, who don't have
Ah,
any
yes.
regionals. Uh, so,
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot they exist. No, I'm kidding. Sorry, New
yeah,
Zealanders.
forgotten by TPCI, forgotten by Debbie Pebble. When does the pain stop?
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, we don't have any New Zealand listeners, do we? I don't know. Well, we'll find out soon. But
Yeah,
yeah.
leave a comment below if you're offended by Debbie's forget.
I wait to be cancelled on Twitter later. But yeah, sorry to our Kiwi friends. But yeah, I believe the Kiwi scene is going hard at it at the cups and challenges. So I'm sure
Oh
there'll
yeah.
be someone from New Zealand to be represented at Worlds this year, given how dedicated they are. So I look forward to seeing the New Zealand's being in Hawaii at some point.
Yeah, I definitely think we will see at least one Kiwi getting that qualification. But we'll wrap back around to that. All of the other locals going on in the Oceanic region, because I think first we can probably talk close to home. Like if we've got the two of us here, then we may talk about things that the two of us know, and both of us have been able to sort of rock up at one or two local tournaments so far this month. Again, as of recording, they've been available for like 17 days. So it
Hmm.
hasn't been a long run up. We've both sort of been able to get in on the ground and show up. So I guess Debbie, for as someone who has been at a local tournament, what is the vibe? What does it look like? Because I know there's a lot of people out there that haven't been able to attend one yet. Like, for example, our good friends up in the state of Queensland, they haven't had a local
Hmm.
tournament yet. They've got some on the books, they just haven't, the date hasn't come up yet. So, what is it like for those that are sort of unaware?
I suppose for uh, the long time battlers that have started from the early days of Sylph, where they used to be in person, it probably has a similar vibe to that. Um, but firstly, before I get started, describing or getting into a couple or a challenge event, is that one, don't be worried, just sign up, have fun. A lot of the players that have come in have no background in, I suppose, in person battling. So there was a lot of new people and a lot of people from the other games in VG and TCG that came down because it just happened to be on anyway. So they gave it a shot, and I really like that aspect of the the various games, kind of like people trying out different things and giving it a go. But yeah, so I happily was a head judge for the Perth Challenge that happened in early March. It was one of the first ones in that week that we when locals got launched. So I was a little bit stressed. I'm not gonna lie, because I was like, what do we do? How do we get started? What do we need to make it happen? And I knew the first one was going to be the learning curve of how future cups and challenges was how it's going to be held. So I knew going into it that it would be there will be some hiccups along the way. But otherwise, it went quite well. So all the participants came in, they registered at the front desk. Most of the stores that run these events will have a small nominal fee. To participate in a cup and or challenge, ours at Good Games Perth, Good Games Cannington in Perth, it was $10. So you pay up front, you drop in your name, and then you come up to someone like myself or the tournament organizer, and they will give you a sheet to fill out your show six. So hopefully by this point you've picked a team. before going into before going into the store. Um, and you've saved it under a tag, and there on the sheet that you write down your Pokemon, the CP, the HP, the move sets for its fast attack and charge attack moves. If it is best buddied, that's important as well. And if it's shadow purified, that's also important. And yeah, you send that back to the organizer and just get ready for everyone to register. Once that's all sorted, then it gets thrown into the special tournament organizer management system, and you get spat out your opponent basically. So, and round one starts, and you play your show six, pick three. It is a best of three, and whoever wins two battles is the winner. And yeah, it just keeps going until basically everyone plays in their Swiss tournament in the beginning. And if you have enough players, I believe it's is it eight? No, how many? If
Yeah, I
it's to
think you need
do
more. I think you need a ninth person to have top cut. It could be eight.
yeah.
It's definitely 8 or 9. I feel like it's 9.
Okay, let's say eight or nine. And yeah, if you happen to have that many participants, then there is a top cut thereafter as well. So the top four players will continue to play in a best of a single elimination thereafter. Still best of three, but single elimination to find a winner. So, and depending on how fast the rounds go and registration and like small hiccups such as reviews and things like that, it can range from about 2 hours to maybe even 3.5. So if you are planning to go, maybe bring some snacks, bring some water, um, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I think. I don't. That's a pretty much a synopsis of the Perth experience, anyway. Most of us just went to go get some food afterwards as a group, and do some trades and things. But that is just a additional social aspect of just Pokemon Go. I think anything Pokemon Go related, people tend to still socialize thereafter.
Yeah, it's pretty much always the vibe, especially when it's like hosted around like lunchtime or something. It's like, well, we're all here. We've sort of spent a lot of the last couple of hours battling, so maybe we sort of hang around and chat a little bit more. And actually, how many people ended up rocking up to Perth Challenge numero uno?
I believe my memory is a bit dodgy. But I'm gonna say 10.
Okay, and no one fact check her. That's just the fact from now on. We're all gonna go ahead with the reality. It was definitely 10. Thank you for listening.
let, let me scroll up. I'll find it somewhere. I just need to scroll for something.
Oh, true. There's
um,
the Dracoviz link. I think you sent it to me directly, so maybe
no, but
I
we
can
had
type.
more. We had more because the Draco Visley had
Uh,
people that were already in the Perth Sylph Discord. However, there were people that registered on the day as well that were
gotcha.
from TCG that were trying it out. So I will find that info eventually, but yeah, let's just run with 10 because otherwise I could just be scrolling here for a while.
Oh, fair enough. And it's correct. We already know that at this point. And
Mm,
that was actually it being the first weekend of March. It was in that sort of interesting period where not all of the new Pokemon slash new moves were eligible yet, because
mm,
we haven't talked about it on the podcast yet, and we probably should, because some very, very high name battlers, I will name names, weren't aware of the rule change, because like I'm not sure how you're supposed to. I'm not
mm-mm,
sure like how you're supposed to stay on top of that, in the sense of like what channels you should be following to get that sort of update. But anyway, the TPCI changed the rules so that what it
mm,
used to be was, if a new move was sort of added to a move pool or a new Pokemon was released, it was eligible 24 hours after release, I think was the time span. So if Annihilate, for example, has just over 24 hours before a regional begins, then everyone is all of a sudden able to use Annihilate, despite the fact that no one has really practiced with it or built their teams around it, or etc., etc., etc. So
correct.
TPCI, I think pretty much in direct response to the Annihilate situation, they updated the rules so that instead of a sort of hard 24-hour sort of time thingo, it's now the case that new moves and new Pokemon are eligible from the following Tuesday after release. So if they're released on the Friday immediately before the regional, it won't be eligible till next week. But by the same token, if it's released on the Wednesday midweek, so there's still like quite a few days lead up to the regional, it's still not eligible until the next week. So it sort of gives you like minimum essentially a week to sort of know what's going on. Um,
Mm.
and gives him time to practice with the new things, which I will say I'm actually in big support of that change. I think it removes some of the chaos that can spur out of move updates coming immediately before big tournaments. I will say that like you still, and this is like TPCI can do nothing about this, I suppose,
Mhm.
but you can still use moves that have been buffed or nerfed in some way. So for example,
Yeah.
Brick Break was updated as a
Mm.
move. So it was the energy cost was increased, but it was given a chance to debuff. Oh, 100% chance. Technically, that's still a chance. It is given the ability to debuff your opponent's defense at the same time. So they've changed the move, but you can still use Pokemon that already had Brick Break in their move pool in that
Yes.
first weekend. So essentially, March was like they made the change within the last week of February. And so going to March straight away was the scenario where we couldn't use any of the new things like Sand Attack or, I mean, to be honest, there weren't really that many. I think the only Pokemon that people really wanted to use was Shadow Claw for Alligator, but
Yes.
not available. Couldn't use it. Have to wait
Mm.
until week two's locals. So essentially, you could still like a lot of people were playing around with Aquatail Mons, so things like Dragonair or even Valiant Vish ended up winning our local tournament with a Aquatail Gyarados that he quite enjoyed.
Yes. Mhm, mhm.
So you got
We
to get a
had
little bit
a,
creative.
I think we had a water pulse Mantine in Perth, that was
Yeah.
brought in, and I was just like, "Wow," 'cause I was, being the head judge, I was, like, team checking everyone as well, and I was like, "Oh, I have to make sure there's no illegal moves," and one of the TCG players was just like, "Illegal moves?" Like, she was so worried, she's like, "What do you mean one of the mo what did I have a?" I'm like, "No, no, no, you don't need to worry about this." Uh, it's just more like, like Shadow Claw, for Alligator, so that was luckily, the Perth crew were really switched on and, didn't have to worry about that, unlike someone.
Yeah, so I guess I'll talk a little bit about my first local that was in that very first weekend as well. Actually, it was, thanks to the wonder of time zones, it was the first local tournament, or should I say, sanctioned tournament in the Oceanic
Mm,
region, held in Sydney. Because again, we haven't really talked about it, and we won't go too much into detail. But there were a few tournaments held in the last week of March that the last week of February that shouldn't have been held. They weren't actually eligible for points, and so currently the leaderboards show some championship points that shouldn't actually be given out, and we've been told that they'll be taken away when they sort of get around to it, I suppose. But the first official tournament happened to be one on the Central Coast here in New South Wales, which so I live in Newcastle. It's a good 3.5 hours away from Sydney by public transport. Which, if you know Sydney, I'd have no intention of driving in Sydney. I'm getting the train in. Unfortunately, this particular weekend, this tournament was sort of held in the middle, so it was like halfway between Sydney and Newcastle. But that weekend, I was in Sydney with the boys. So I had to trek in from Sydney anyway, even though it is probably the closest local tournament to my house that there probably ever will be. uh, didn't get the chance to exploit that fact. Still had to come in from Sydney, but which was nice because I got to carpool in with a Bambos, Taj, and Rick Flareon. Rick Flareon being he got into the car. We had a I don't know, maybe it was an hour drive to the venue. I can't something in that ballpark, hour and a half maybe. And we were like, "Oh, Rick, just an FYI, if you weren't aware, you can't use any of the new moves. They've just changed the rules." And he was like, "Oh, man." um, so he spent the car
Oh,
trip sort
no.
of building a brand new team. RIP didn't get to use his fun team that he'd sort of built ready to go. But not that like
Oh.
also this was the move update, I think, came in at 8 a.m. We were in the car at 10 a.m. So, like, we didn't have time to practice or anything. It was just go, go, go. Like, while we were in the car, or maybe it happened at 10 even. I don't know. All I remember is that while we were in the car, there were still issues with like some of the moves hadn't been updated properly. And we were sort of like actively seeing new tweets that were like, oh, okay, they finally fixed the move. It's the stats are what they should be now. So it's like, okay, let's see how this tournament goes. But we end up rocking in. We had just short. I think we were supposed to have 8 people, but someone wasn't able to make it, so we ended up with 7. So we just had 3 rounds of Swiss. It was a pretty like it was pretty chill. We all 7 of us knew what we were doing. Like we were all I guess veterans of the competitive Pokemon Go circuit. We all knew how it was going to work. It worked pretty well. There was only one tiny little question. I don't want to say the word review because it wasn't quite like there was an issue, and then we sort of looked at
Mm,
the footage and they sort of just agreed between themselves, and so it was like happy days.
yeah.
We uh, kept on rolling. But that's when I keep thinking that we've sort of talked about this because I guess I made a YouTube video on it. So so like in my head, it's like, oh yeah, I've talked
YouTube.com
about that.
slash
And Debbie Pebble. So, but essentially, for those that
PvPC.
are not following over there or on the Twitters as well, twitter.com/pvpcr. Essentially, this tournament, I was lucky enough to end up in the top 4. So I picked up 10 championship points for my efforts with a team that consisted of, well, I did bring in Shadow Dragonair because I was like, well, Aquatail was buffed. So it's probably, I had to build the Shadow Dragonair, actually. I didn't have one, but I was like, I've seen it performing so well in all of
Did you
these
try to best buddy
regionals.
this one?
I built it in the car, potentially.
Oh.
Uh, Actually, no, no, no. That's a lie. I got up at. I think I had to get up at 6 a.m. or something like that at my friend's
Of
place where I was
course you
staying
did.
in Sydney. And so I
Mhm.
like got up at 6 a.m. I was like, okay, I now have to build my team. So I spent the next sort of hour throwing things together, take a look at PV Poke, keep checking and rechecking the Niantic blog of the PvP changes that were about to come in. Again, this was hours before the updates actually happened. So we still didn't know the stats. So I just had to be like,
Mhm.
well, like Shadow Dragonair is already good, and Aquatail is just exclusively getting buffed. It's doing slightly more damage, so it's not going to be worse. It should be better. So I was like, all right, I'll spend the 350,000 dust to build this. I feel like it was a pretty high rank Dragonair, which is rare for me, but it went up to 1,500, which was the most important thing.
Just to confirm, this is a
Um,
shadow one as well?
yes, yeah, that's why it cost so
Mhm.
much.
Mhm,
Shadow
mhm.
Dragonair, and then on top of that, we brought in Wailmer, of course, because Wailmer did
Of
me
course.
so well. Top 6 of Sydney. I decided this would be the second Play Pokemon tournament that I was going to bring it into. I didn't bring it to Melbourne because Zoe had that covered for me. So, but Zoe wasn't here at this one, so I was like, okay, I guess I've got a rep. And then I was running Bastiodon, and then I was running Whimsicott with Fairy Wind, and then I was running
Mm.
Alolan Ninetales with Powder Snow. And then Best Buddy Whiscash, Chair Squeak. Best Buddy Whiscash came along for the ride as well because I just still think it's kind of cool. It's kind of goofy and I like it. But all that to say, Wailmer won some championship points. So, woo!
But did Wailmer actually come out that tournament? That's the real question,
um,
Stephen.
well, that we can use that as a segue because it didn't come out at this tournament, but we had another tournament the next weekend. I guess,
Is this to yeah talking about the nightmares for Bambos
yeah,
of all people to
yeah,
do it on?
yeah. Well, so here's the thing. So in this first tournament, I had like it was a 3 round tournament. I faced Bambos and I beat him 2-1. I then lost to I was calling him Mika in the video, but his name's Michael, so I think it's probably Micah, maybe. Micah 0602. I lost to him pretty hard in that first tournament, and then was able to conquer the big bad Rick Flareon, who again only built his team like in the preceding few hours. which I guess I had as well, but you know, that's my norm. That's not Rick's norm. He's used to having some properly built teams, I suppose. But able to beat Rick Flairion out as well, which I did clickbait him on Twitter because
You did, and, oh, I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do, content creator, but,
well, I sort of told him, I was like, well, I'd already tweeted out like, oh, I won championship points with Whalema, woo! And so when I made the YouTube
Mhm.
video, it was titled like something along the lines of I won championship points with Whalema. But then when I went to tweet the video out, I was like, oh, but I already made a tweet that said that. Everyone on Twitter's already aware. I've got to think of something else to clickbait. Oh, I know. Beating Ric Flair on with his Shadow Whiscash into my Bastiodon. Lock it in. So apologies to Ric
Mm.
Flair on, but you know, again, got to do what you got to do in this day and age, I guess.
Well, I think you
Uh,
made up for it for the following video for, our favorite Richard Flareon, so I think that's fine.
yeah, that's true. So I guess I'll talk about that one as well. Although shout out Valiant Vish, who did take out that first local tournament, which put him at
Mhm.
245 championship points, only
Ah,
5 points away from being the second
mhm.
one to qualify. So close. But also that same weekend we had Shadow winning a Melbourne local tournament as well, which was
We
like
did. Congratulations
huge.
to Shadow XXO. Big fan, always been. Who is from Melbourne, and I just love to see more women up there. So the fact that Shadow won her local with the team that she actually used at Melbourne Regional as well. So
Mm,
she did tell me that going, oh, it was the same team. Like I was already familiar with it. I'm like, fantastic. But she did verse a few people in that challenge that were did very well at Melbourne regionals as well. I think was it Bamboozled was there
yeah.
and a few others that I recognized anyway. So I was just like, good on her. Like, and Shadow's been playing for such a long time as well. Like she's one of the admins for Girls at PvP, and has always been I think a participant in most of the Arena Australis tournaments as well. So I love the fact that that she got the W for her local, and I was extremely proud of her and sent her multiple SMSs because she doesn't look at Discord notifications. But anyway, love you.
Yeah, she did incredibly well. I was really excited to see it, especially after like coming so close to top 16 at Melbourne regionals as well. I think she was literally like
Mm,
one win away from sneaking into the championship point spot. Uh, she went positive in Melbourne. I think she went 3-2 from memory, so she did really well.
yeah,
But
she did. It
yes,
was her
running
best
away
run.
with
Mm.
oh yeah, well I don't know. Now we've actually got to have like debates because it's like is first place at a local like where does that stack up compared to regional results like
Mm.
what is that equivalent to where does the success lie but she's walked away with 15 championship points all the same
Hmm.
although I will say shout out as well to Bamboozled who you mentioned who came second in that tournament who was running I think he was running Water Pulse Celio which is kind of sick. like that's,
This is
there's
so up
really
your
one
alley.
way. Yeah, there's only one path to really have me just love any solid PvP result, and that is by having it attached to a really sick Pokemon or really dumb idea. Um, that's just awesome. Like I know, like I like novelty. So there was this is way, way, way so long ago now, but I remember a regional team that was on Twitter that like the first initials spelt out like trans with two A's, and it was like, oh, that's sick. like this, I love novelty. so Waterpole Celio, awesome. And then, of course,
uh,
the artist soon to be known, I assume, as Jai Loves Latin, also took out the Perth one.
He did. So, yeah, Jai managed to take down Adam in the grand final, Avrip, which I consider that a bit of an upset. Um,
Mm.
but it was in the last game was very RPS according to Avrip, but that's just for copium. Uh,
Yeah. I
but
mean,
yeah,
hey, I was running Bastion. I think I know a thing or two about some RPS games.
but when I was looking at it, I'm just like, well, it is what it is. And like Adam's looking at me, being like, "Oh, I got RPS." I'm just like, and he's like, "Oh, what happens now?" I'm like, "Well, it's done." Like, what do you mean? What happens now? It's not best of five. You don't go to double elimination. It's single elim. You're done. We're gonna go get lunch. um.
Yeah.
So yeah, just expect that if I'm the head judge for your tournament.
Yeah, it's tough loving coming from Deberald Pebberald.
Mhm.
But still, Avrib still walking away with 12 championship points as well. Which, by the way, I think it is a
Mhm.
little bit comical in these, especially these scenarios where we have a top cut with like top four people and they're playing for like such single digit championship points.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, if you get all the way from to second place, you get an extra 2 points. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
congrats. Which
Yeah, it
again,
was basically what I told them. Yeah, what I told them in grand final. I'm like, "You guys are fighting for 2 points right now, or 3 points."
yeah, 3
They're
points
like,
in the
"Oh, is that
grand
it?"
finals. Yeah.
Yep, yeah. I'm like, "Uh-huh, that's
Oh,
it."
kind of funny. But anyway, they're all walking home with some championship points, and so was I.
Mhm.
That's probably the first and last time, and I'm happy to sit on the leaderboard. I'll hang out at 10 points for the rest of the season. Although actually,
No,
maybe I should
no,
also say,
I see more coming.
come on now. Uh, well, maybe once Valiant Vish hits his 250 and runs away, then maybe
Well,
we
he
get one left
has.
thread. True,
He's
I was
made a tweet about that.
yeah. See, I'm used to being in like content creatory streamy mode where if something hasn't happened on stream yet, it hasn't happened yet. And so, but we hadn't talked about the second Sydney challenge yet.
Ah,
So in my content creator head, I was like, oh, that hasn't happened yet. They're behind the curtain.
very well. Mhm,
But
mhm.
yeah, no, Vish has qualified now. So he got his
Congrats,
last points that he
Fish.
needed. So big
Dun
shout out, Valiant
dun.
Vish, the second person in the Oceanic region to qualify for Worlds this
Whoa.
season, which is like, it's halfway through the March. Like we're well into it at
Mhm,
this point. But it is going to
mhm,
accelerate, I think, quite a bit as the following months go on. But, well deserved. Glad to see him up there. And
mhm.
looking forward to seeing him take on the World Championships in maybe August, maybe whenever the
At
dates
this
are released.
Yeah, at this stage, we still don't have the dates for when Hawaii Worlds will be on. If it's the same time as last year, possibly August, but again, nothing's been announced, so nothing's been booked. Maybe after this podcast gets released, maybe something will get announced. Who knows? But at this stage, we don't know.
Which is pretty cool when flights only get more and more expensive, but that's fine. It's whatever. It's
Mm.
fine. Don't even care really. So, you
Mm.
know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's
Mr. Moneybags
whatever.
over here.
What- It's not like I got prize pool for coming fourth place at a local. So
You think I did?
maybe one. Yeah. Wait, were you in the money when did you make moolah when you
No,
came fourth at Perth?
no,
No. Oh,
no.
where,
It wasn't.
oh, what was?
It was only
Oh,
first two, top two. That's it.
oh, is that it
That's
changed for the 2023 season, right?
No, it
Or
only
not?
changed for this season.
Really?
Like after just Yokohama. Yeah.
I could have sworn that top four got prize money
No,
in the last
no,
season.
no. It was only when the
Maybe not the
rejig
2022 one.
and no more OCIC, less regional, more prize money. That whole kind of like, hey, we'll package it this way for you guys. That's what
Oh,
happened.
oh. Well, I guess live and you learn. Because I was looking at it from a perspective of like, oh, I came sixth at Sydney. If I did that this season, then I would be sitting on some money, but not anymore.
You would.
Um, but yeah, alas, I should have done it this season instead. That was my mistake.
Yeah.
Definitely my
Yeah.
mistake. I've
Yeah. If
fact
only there
checked
was a
it.
Sydney
This
regional.
top four did get money. It was
What last year?
yeah. It was 1,000 to first, 500 to second, 250 to third, 150 to fourth.
Huh. I got gypped.
Yeah.
How dare they? I could have used that money for, like, bubble tea or something. Ah.
Oh, well, I guess you'll just have to do it again this season.
Oh,
Uh,
please.
hey, if I can get fourth in a tournament with Vish and Rick, then
Oh, someone needs a head judge in, Perth so then I can step down and actually play.
true, true. We'll see
Oh,
how things
well.
go. But anyway, that's sort of all first week of the thingamajiggies. Then we
Mhm.
had week 2, which was probably definitely the biggest week of locals we've had in the Oceanic region, and probably the biggest week of the month, I'm going to assume, because there were like uh, 9 different tournaments that were all going on in week 2, which was really the first full week that we were able to host tournaments. Because
Mm.
again, the first week it started on a Friday. The season updates didn't actually come through till Saturday morning, but this was the sort of the first week that we could actually use the brand new moves, the brand new Pokemans, and we weren't at most of them, so we can't really go into detail, but I can at least talk to the Sydney challenge that was held in Good Games Central. And the one in the first week was held at NJ Collectibles, by the way, just for shout out. But Rick Flareon ended up taking out the tournament with, which did have a top cut. It was the largest challenge we've had, or the largest local we've had in the Oceanic region so far. And Rick Flareon ended up going 3-1 in the Swiss rounds, only dropping a set to Jay Tisler. 2-1, and
Mhm.
then came back in the semi-finals against Jay Tisler again before having to face Valiant Vish in the grand finals. And at this point, Valiant Vish had secured his world championship qualification, and Rick Flareon didn't really matter to him as far as qualification is concerned, because he'd already, like, by getting to the grand finals, he'd picked up 12 points. He needed
Mm.
8 more points to qualify, and he can't get that from the grand finals. So,
He
if he
can
picks
get
up his 3,
3.
yeah, he'll still be 5 away. But it is a case that
Mm.
every point matters, because the travel awards this season are given out to the top couple of people on the championship leaderboard at the end of the season. So every point does matter. So it's
Yes.
not like he was playing for nothing, but it is
Mhm.
a little bit comical that it was pretty meaningless as far as world's
Highly
qualification is
comical.
concerned. As soon as
Mhm.
he didn't even have to play the semi-finals. He had his 10 points. He would just has to get to another top 4 later on.
Yeah, exactly right. Actually, I wanna know, actually, if Rick actually bought the same team that he originally planned for Tuggerah, um,
Mm, yeah,
because
I
obviously he had
asked
to
him
make
that.
that quick shift in the car, and then yeah. Oh, you did?
Yeah, we got the hot goss. That's I think that was probably one of the first things I asked him once I walked into the shop. I was a little bit late, but so was the store, so we were fine. um, but I was like, "I know. Did you go back to that team that you wanted to run?" And he was like, "Nah, fresh team, rebuilt," which is fair enough
Mhm.
from a standpoint of he built that original team before we had all of the stats, before there had
Mm.
been any tournaments, that before he'd had any chance to have any practice and whatnot. So he built a new team. At this point, we had seen the day one results from the regional that was in Brazil, but
Mhm.
which was a little bit wacky. Like, we were sort of caught off guard because there was like a real lack of Feraligatr. There was only one Whiscash in the top 8. Like, it was different than we were expecting, I think. But
Mhm.
regardless, he built his team, and he actually built it with no new moves. So, like tell me when you hear something new. He was running Lantern, Skarmory, Shadow Gligar, Vigoroth, Trevenant, and then he was running Hakamo'o, which already had access to Brick Break. Even though the
Mm.
blog says that it was given Brick Break this season, the blog was wrong. um, so
Yep.
he could have used it last week the previous week as well, but he brought it this time. And he said
Mm.
in his tweet that it was difficult to use up against people playing meta teams, but Rick Flareon in particular, in his first 2 rounds of this tournament, 13 people, he faced the 2 Shadow Bayleafs back to back. rounds 1 and 2, which is just insane. Shout out to, our favorite Spice Lord, Kawhi Kuwait, and also Raymondo Cool was the second Shadow Bailey runner, but kind of sick.
We just have a different meta down here in Oceania. I think like forget watching like anything from North America or in Europe. We just run our own thing here. I think its accent even said going on Twitter going, "What's with Oceania and Bastiodon?"
Yeah. Yeah, I tweeted out a graphic that was like had the winning teams from the 8. So there were. I guess here's the. I'll go into the context. I guess there were 8 tournaments held. 2 of them were won by the same guy with the same team. One of them had 2 3-0 winners. So it was like they did do tiebreakers, so like they tie broke it championship point wise, but the system just worked a little bit wonky and it didn't pair the 2 people that were 2-0 against each other. So there were 2 people that ran away 3-0. So both teams ended up on the graphic. But anyway, there were sort of 8 not even undefeated, 8 winning teams on the graphic from around the Oceanic region. So from around all of the tournaments in Australia and New Zealand. And yeah, tweeted that out. And 4 out of the 8 teams have Basildon on it. So uh,
50%.
it
That
does
is a
tell you something.
disgusting amount.
Again, as someone who ran Basildon themselves the first week, except so I
Disgusting.
again we
Disgusting, Steve.
hey, come on now. I was after triple crit, did so well with it at Melbourne Regionals.
Disgusting. Get out of here.
Well, I did catch one tiny little bit of Twitter ire when I posted my team from that first local because I named my Basildon second place because after Caleb Pang famously came second in 3 separate regionals running Basildon, and then Triple Crit came second with Basildon. Rob Drogo came second place with Basildon last season. The only Basildon win there had been was back at the very first tournament in Australia where Rob Drogo was able to take that one out to qualify himself for the
Yep,
World Championships. But
I'm aware of that
I
one.
felt famously. But yeah,
Uh,
I felt like it had sort of earned its second place title. And Caleb Peng rocked up in my Twitter replies. He was like, what did he say? Something along the lines of that name being disrespectful. It was uncalled for. Uh, but I
mhm.
was like, hey, just win a regional. Prove me wrong. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's
Jeez, Caleb,
but
come on now.
come on now. But after this week of 4 Basties taking out first place, maybe it is making a bit of a splash. But I will say, one of the teams that won was Triple Crit because in
Mm,
Melbourne, in Bendigo, they had a challenge and a cup back to back. They did the challenge. They did the cup. Sorry, Triple Crit took it out, and he had to like take out Jakobovic along the way. Like they had the Aussie champ hanging out in the wings, and he told me this in DMs. He was like, I said I really loved the second team that was included a Shadow Victory Bell, a Wigglytuff, and a Bastiodon, which he did not run in
yep.
his cup. He changed his team to run that in the challenge. And he said that
Mhm, mhm.
after the first one, Yakko said that he was changing his team going into the challenge. And Triple Crit was like, well, I don't want Yakko to be able to hard counter me here. So changed up his team into the most RPS abomination that you could find with like again Shadow Victory Belt and Basti alongside Wigglytuff, and he was able to win the challenge. So it
Mm.
goes to show you the man has got some talent up his sleeve. So shout out to our
It
shout out to our man Triple Crit.
it is like I'm in awe and I'm disgusted at the same time. I don't know how to describe this feeling that I have because I'm just like, that is awesome. That is like genius. And also, I'm just like a little bit dirty. So I'm not sure how I feel, but good on Crit for winning that one because you know what? That's again, one, he beat Yakko, who was in
Mhm.
the grand final with himself in Melbourne Regional, not only
Mhm.
once but twice in the same day, and did it
Yep.
in such style as well, and such disrespect, and I just
Oh, yeah.
I kind of love it.
Yeah, I mean, look, Triple Crit is the man that brought Yakko to game 15 in the Melbourne Regionals with Bastion on his team. So I guess he does have some experience in being able to run these Pokemon with a bit of a rep for being RPS machines and still coming out pretty well. So yeah,
Mm,
big shout out to Triple Crit, who also after his second place finish at Melbourne and this like back to back Cup and Challenge win, he's been like skyrocketing up the leaderboards as well. Like he's
mm,
already in fourth place on the Oceanic leaderboards with 225 points. He's only 25 away from qualifying. So massive shout out
yeah.
and basically guaranteed that he's going to get there, which is awesome. I'm really glad because he really is one of the best we've got. And I
Mhm.
want to see him take on Worlds.
100%. Absolutely. And yeah, just that it is quite almost like a little bit unfathomable given that Triple Crit has only attended one regional. And that was Melbourne. He was a finalist for that. And that he's only sitting 20 points down from currently Rick Flarion's points. Um, and Rick attending both regionals as well. So it just goes to show how powerful these cups are if you're on a roll,
Mm,
as well. So, yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how the climb goes as by the time our next podcast rolls around.
mm. Yeah, I mean, I guess we should also shout out all of the other winners from around Oceania as well. You know, we had Anna B280 at Christchurch, New Zealand. We had Howie Power, who won one of the other Victorian Cups out there in Melbourne. I think that was a midweek tournament, if I'm remembering correctly.
Mm.
Then Bomatsu took out a
Hmm.
back-to-back cup and a challenge in New Zealand, who again running a bit of an interesting team, very much a student of Coach Yusei, who was running a Talonflame and a Alolan Marowak on his team, alongside also
Oh, that says
Walrein.
that is you say all over it. And a
Oh
Alolan
yeah,
Marowak, get out of here.
yeah,
That's so you
yeah,
say.
yeah, incredibly. Like I can tell you, there is not another team on that like on those 8 winning teams that had a single fire type in it, and this guy's running in with two. So you know, definitely a student of the coach himself.
Hmm.
But yeah, ran the same team back to back as well. Unlike Triple Crit, who went for the who went for that change up, and then we saw a Crusader taking out the Hobart one with Rocket Claire also having a 3-0 record, but being second based on opponent's win rate. I think was the eventual tiebreak. But both of them coming through with
Mm.
some championship points as well. Of course, Rocket Claire, someone we've been watching very closely after coming in
Mhm,
third at the Melbourne Regional Championships. But
mhm, mhm.
I mean, with all of that said, like I guess we can do our leaderboard update if you'd like, because I know that Amanda Lundberger, she started off a series this season that I actually really loved the concept of, even though
Mhm.
she said that the Oceanic region wasn't running on championship points, which was obviously wrong. Just how much she cares about us, but she hasn't done it in months,
Ooh.
so I think she's unfortunately given up on it. But it was really cool where she would just do like leaderboard updates, like the movements, people that are freshly qualified and whatnot. So I figure
Mhm.
at least in the Oceanic region, we can give a little bit of an update as to where people are standing. And Debbie, there is one man who is, you could say, out in front of the pack.
Yeah, there is one, and he's been the most, uh, featured guest on our channel.
Oh, are you saying that there might be a trend? The more you show up on this podcast, the higher up on the leaderboard you go. Uh,
Look, I'm just saying
oh.
to anyone that's not at the top, you're most welcome to use this exploit. It is perfectly
Okay. Well, hang
safe.
on. Wait, Debbie, but we've been on this podcast for like 19 episodes now. I actually, in saying that, I did pick up championship points, so maybe it is working. Okay, it's confirmed. You
Mhm. Mhm.
need to be on this
Scientific
podcast with the
fact.
Dubskis. Lock
Mhm.
it in.
Mhm. Yep.
But yeah, we have Yakko. up with 452 points, followed by, in distant second place, Valiant Vish with his fresh 257 points.
Mhm.
Again, the leaderboard doesn't show that number because it does have some points that will later be taken away from that first challenge that shouldn't have fired, but still fired anyway. And then we've got Rick Flareon at 245, only 5 points away from qualifying,
So
just one
close.
more top
Mhm.
four. So close.
Yep.
Again, basically guaranteed, alongside Triple Crit, who is at 225, only needing 25 more points. And that is
Mhm.
actually, where Triple Crit is sitting, that is where the 15 can actually really come in handy because that's, he can top four, get 10, and then win one and get 15. And that five is actually going to matter to push him over the line. So, maybe it's not completely ridiculous that it's five. It is ridiculous the jump from 15 to 12, though. I think that's a bit
But
funny.
imagine being heartbroken with the 12. Just be like, "Oh, man, those 3 points really did matter in the end."
Oh yeah, if you finish the season at 247, oh my gosh, what a disaster. At
That'd be
that
so
point, like, what do
painful.
you even do?
That'd be almost like laughing stock. Like, not that anyone would, but it'd be like, "Oh, man."
Yeah, rough to say the least. But
I
anyway,
would
those are our only.
fly. I would fly to a cup or challenge if it was just like, all right, you know, NAIC is here. Okay, how many can I squeeze in before then? Just like, yep, cheapest ticket. I'm just gonna go do it.
Yeah, oh, they've got a cup and a challenge back to back. Let's go, zoom, just out.
Was that New Zealand? All right,
Um,
I'll be there in Auckland.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, New Zealand. We didn't actually mention it hard, but they've got so many. Like they this month, they had 6 cup challenges like back to back. So as in 6 separate cup challenge combos. And again, New Zealand is a whole country, so it's not like you can just hit them all like a pinball machine. They are spread out, but the it does sort of go to show that New Zealand does have some solid chance to get some qualifiers this season, which is lovely and probably
Mm-hmm.
something that New Zealand has just had to suffer through in VG and TCG because they don't have regionals. So they're
Mm-hmm.
probably well set up as a result. But I'm sure we'll sort of see them climbing up the leaderboard in good time. But after our sort of top four that all have 200 plus points, we have Mikey Morgs in fifth with 180. We have Rocket Claire
Mm-hmm.
with 170. Stumpy 2517, as everyone loves to call him, and he loves to be called, 160 points. Bamboozled
Hey,
8
that guy's.
coming in with 152.
Oh no, I said I was gonna say like I think that Stumpy guy's famous. But continue.
Yes, I saw him on the news one time. He is famous. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Mm. Yeah.
So crazy that such a famous guy is playing Pokemon Go PvP. It
Yeah.
ceases to
What a
amaze.
privilege.
Yeah, we're very lucky to be in the oceanic region alongside him, I think.
Mhm.
But yeah, Bamboozled on 152. And then we've got Avrip in ninth, just like he was at Worlds with 142 points. And
That caught me off guard. Sorry. Uh,
I, I
uh,
didn't think of it until I said Avrip, and I was like, oh, hang on, there's something here.
if there was a video right now, you'd see just me nodding my head and being like, "Yes, yes." That was perfect.
That's a blow off the finger guns. And then we
Yep.
also had Gon 1001 at 110 points in 10.
Hmm.
So Gon also coming out like he's got a name full of zeros and ones. His point score is full of zeros and ones, and he's in place number 10. So also staying a little bit on
Wow.
theme there. But
There
well
we
done,
go.
Gon. And
Hmm.
yeah, that's sort of where we're at. So we've got 2 people qualified, 2 people essentially guaranteed to qualify, and then as
Hmm.
some more down the string who like have some pretty good chances to qualify as well, depending on how
Hmm.
they go
Hmm.
in upcoming Perth regionals and also the local challenges and cups to come.
Yeah. I suppose with the leaderboard, we look at two things. Obviously, people qualifying, and the other thing is the travel award. So at the moment,
Mm,
yes, Yakovovich is sitting at the top. He, like, let's be honest, unless come Perth Regional, someone will get 200 points. Even like if Yakovovich just does another challenge, he'll still. Like, even if Valiant Vish was in Perth and he managed to win it, the difference between Yakovovich and Valiant Vish would have been what? 5 points.
Mm.
So Djokovic could still, like, just do a challenge or something like that to be in the top. But it's a top two, so you know, um, he's got to share it with someone. uh, so yeah, I think he's safely secured that travel award. But it'll be interesting to see who makes it up with him up there to get the travel award, because it is quite a large sum of money, and being in Australia, Hawaii is not close at all.
Nothing is.
I mean, uh, I
It's
think some
closer
of
to
those
us
like
than
little
like.
islands
Uh, oh,
closer to
true, true.
you, not closer to me.
Yeah, yeah. You're in a little bit of a different spot. I am relatively close to Hawaii in the grand scheme of things.
Yes, I have to
But
fly
yeah,
to
you're a little
you
further.
and then follow
Yeah,
you up.
yeah,
I'll meet you at the
pretty
airport.
much. Yeah, exactly. Whereas, like, when I was going to go to GoFest that one time I got COVID, Hawaii was going to be my stopover destination. It's like
Mm.
decent enough place for little old me, but yeah, we'll see how it all goes. And yeah, I mean, oh wait, hang on, Debbie, I didn't even get to say that I ran Skywave Malamar in
No,
in the
how did
Sydney
we
local
forget
as well.
that?
Oh my gosh! Again, that's
That you
this is the one things
that you could
that I care about.
the one thing that you couldn't even register on Dracoviz.
Yeah, yeah. I have a habit of causing these moveset registration problems apparently, but Drakov is because, and again, no one is using Psywave on Malamar. Essentially, it's you can think it's like it's a one turn psychic move, so it's like a Dragon Breath sort of deal. It's psychic type. Um, and I was given to Malamar this season. No one has run it on Dracoviz, so no one was going to report a problem. But Dracoviz accidentally put Psywave in the charge move section of Malamar instead of the fast move section. So I registered it with Peck instead. And then, yeah, we corrected it at the venue. But I don't know,
Mm.
Psywave. Like I wanted to do something goofy. Obviously, Wailmer being on the team and getting. That was. We also didn't get back to that. Wailmer, I finally used it in a play Pokemon battle against Bamboss.
I
Because
think I've seen a short
in
on
the
it.
lead, there is a YouTube short out there where I'll probably say exactly what I'm about to say here. But if you want to see it in action, it's there at YouTube.com. Blah, 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 blah. But
Also on TikTok.
oh, technically, Debbie made me put it on TikTok. TikTok. She was like, "Oh, you've already got it made. You can just upload it
Uh,
over there." And I was like,
okay,
"Oh,
context. Also, I was like, oh yeah, why didn't you just put it on TikTok? I didn't think you actually did it until literally last night when I was scrolling through TikTok. I'm like, hey, I know this video. So I gave it a like. So you probably just see a like from me yesterday and be like, oh, now she likes it. It was uploaded like 4 days
oh."
ago.
No, I haven't opened TikTok since I uploaded it. So I also don't have notifications on. So I have not seen anyone who's liked it, but it's out there. But now you've just like you've reported yourself, really. So
I'm too honest. Anyway.
yeah, but hey, I'm also a man of my word. So I said I was going to upload it. I uploaded it. But
You did. Well
essentially, it was
done.
a case where Bamboss, like we sat down, again having to face him back to back challenges. I was like, he's like, I know that you'd never used Wailmer at Sydney Regionals. I know that you never brought Wailmer in the last challenge, but I just know that as soon as I decide to assume you're not going to bring it, that's the game that you're going to land your Wailmer and my Skeledirge. And so, mostly because I thought it was going to be funny, we played game one. I didn't bring it. He had Skeledirge, and I was like, okay, interesting, interesting. So game
Mm.
two, I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna switch lock our Wailmer onto that Skeledirge. We're just gonna have to play hard RPS. Let's make this happen. So I assume he's gonna run the same lead. We come in. I've got a favorable lead. He swaps out into Skeledirge. I swap out into Wailmer. Absolutely cheering, water gunning away. He's sitting there with his hand over his face, like, oh, why?
Poor
And
Bambos.
yeah, poor Bamboss. And able to get the Wailmer win with its debut on on
Mm.
my actual battle team on the Play Pokemon circuit. So
So
shout
100% win rate.
out. Well,
Oh,
I
okay, okay. I said too soon. Said too soon.
Yeah,
The
it
magic
might
of
only
TikTok.
be with I mean, well, it was actually the magic of YouTube Shorts because YouTube Shorts they have to be less than a minute, so
Mm.
I can't fit two battles in there. And because it was like a
Uh,
relatively bulky battle, it was like I was already on like sped up 2.6 times to fit within the minute. Uh,
mhm.
so there's no room to talk about a second battle. But
I see.
yeah, yeah. Wyoming has a
Yeah.
50% win rate on my team.
Well, now you've outed yourself, really. So,
Well,
I
I
mean,
think you outed me in some ways, but hey, potato,
oh, I'm
potato.
sorry. Oh
Ah,
no.
that's that's
Oh,
fine. That's
no,
fine. But no,
no,
I
it
did
isn't
get to
fine.
so. But I
I'm
wanted to use
sorry.
Cywave. It's fine. I wanted to use something new going to this tournament. There was nothing that really caught my eye. I didn't have a Shadow for Alligator with Frustration removed, and I'm not as good as Debbie Pebble at using Frustration Pokemon. So
Number one
I was like,
player
well,
with
number
frustration.
one player. I wasn't that good.
Yet
I'm
to
not
be
as
disproven.
talented. Yeah, yet to be disproven. I'm running with it to the bank. It's true. So I was kind of like, well, I guess there's Psywave Malamar, and I was looking at it on PV Poke, and I was like, is there any reason to run this? Because PV Poke recommends Psycho Cut still because it's better. Because Malamar is definitely a Pokemon that relies on its charge moves, and you want to charge up as quick as possible, which Psycho Cut does quite nicely. Psywave being a more damaging move doesn't really give you that. But I was like, give me one use case. And I found that you could actually completely farm down Annihilate with Psywave and two shields. So I was like, okay, that's my aim.
Mm.
That's what I want to accomplish here. So in
Hmm.
my so after round one, where I was up against Bamboss, round two, I was up against Micah again. Like I don't understand. I was just getting the same draw that I got from the first challenge at the second one, but I was able. I swapped in my Malamar. He actually swapped his Annihilate into my Malamar. I mean, I was very much running under the assumption that no one knew the psi wave counts because it's
Yeah.
strictly bad and not worth using slash knowing. But
Hmm.
I think it probably worked in my favor because yeah, I was able to completely farm down his annihilate. Still lost the battle. I ended up losing the match in game two. I threw so hard. I had back to back mud bombs on my Whiscash against his Shadow, Alolan Sandslash, and I threw the first one and then forgot that I had back to back moves and swapped out. And he,
Uh,
he was he was literally saying like beforehand, he was like, "Oh, I think you've won this," and I was like, like I hope so. I don't know. I've got a dazzling gleam on my Ninetales loaded, I guess, but yeah, I just completely forgot I had two moves, which would have been very much game winning, but alas, it was not meant to be. But hey, I
mm.
still got to farm down and annihilate with Malamar, and that will not be something I do again.
Look, it was funny.
It was funny.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, we've talked for so much longer than I thought we were going to talk about the locals in the Oceanic region, but
Ag- Agree, but it needed to be said because we need all the attention in the Oceania region. So if it takes an hour, it takes an hour.
and thank you all for listening to us rattle on about it because otherwise, well, I guess we've just spent an hour rattling on, and that's the end of that. So, makes you think.
Mm. So follow us on Twitter at GoodDayBadlers, youtube.com/GoodDayBadlers. If you're listening on Spotify, feel free to give us a 5-star rating. And what other things? Apple, whatever the Apple thing is. Uh, Google's no longer exists, I think.
R.I.P.
YouTube, give us a like, give us a comment. The DMs are open on Good Day Battlers as well if you've got any questions. And yeah, if you want to, you can ask us a question and we can answer it on the next podcast as well. Like in case you want to know
Or we might not.
what. Oh, we might not. I don't know. Okay,
Yeah, I
fair enough.
mean, I'm not committing. Hey, if you ask what the three numbers in the back of my credit card are, I'm not answering. You can ask though.
uh, you can ask.
They're
I
three
was
six
gonna just
five.
say mine. Yeah, I was gonna say mine, but let's
Now you just have to
we
figure out
can
the
look.
ones on the front.
All right, bye.
Oh, bye.
You ready?
Set.
Go.
Blah!